Roll Tide and welcome to Tide TV This Week. I'm Roger Hoover, joined by my co-host Kira Goldstein for what is our final show of the season.
Yeah, I can't believe our last show is here. It has been such an incredible year.
Really has.
The Alabama baseball team had a big series this past weekend at home. The Tide hosted the 10th-ranked Georgia Bulldogs for a 3-game series at the Joe.
And for the second weekend in a row, Alabama defeated a top 10 team. Crimson Tide handed #1 Tennessee their only SEC loss of the season the previous weekend, and this past weekend, Alabama defeated 10th-ranked Georgia.
The Alabama pitching staff held number 10 Georgia scoreless in 16 out of 18 innings in games 1 and 2, but the Bulldogs scored 4 runs in the first inning in game 1 and 3 runs in the third inning of game 2 to win both. Georgia defeated Alabama 4-2 in game 1 and 3-0 in game 2.
But the Tide got things rolling in Sunday's game 3. Grayson Hitt got the start and shut down the 10th-ranked Bulldogs offense. Hitt threw 6 scoreless innings, allowing just 3 hits, striking out 7. Also, Brock Guffey threw a scoreless 7th inning, while Dylan Ray pitched the final 2 innings for his 5th save of the season.
The Tide's offense came on a couple of home runs. Drew Williamson scored the first run of the game on a solo shot to left center in the 4th inning. And then Andrew Pinkney gave Alabama a couple of insurance runs with a 2-run blast to left field. For the second weekend in a row, the Tide got a top 10 win with a 3-0 shutout win over number 10 Georgia in game 3.
Really good game today. Obviously, Grayson Hitt was just fabulous, and Guffey was really sharp in his inning, and D-Ray was pretty electric to close it out, and we did enough offensively. So, I'm sure you felt my frustration yesterday with the offense, and, you get to this afternoon and you look back and, you're like, gosh, we gave up runs in 2 innings and we lost the series, Georgia's a very good team. They played really well this weekend. They didn't give us anything. They threw a ton of strikes. They handled the ball. They made us work to get them out. And they did enough. They got a couple of big hits with multiple people on base, and that's the difference in the series.
On Tuesday night, the Tide had a midweek matchup on the road against Samford in Birmingham. Alabama jumped on the Bulldogs early, up 2-0. Dominic Temez cranked one over the fence in left to make it 4-0 Crimson Tide. Up 6-1 in the 8th, freshman Will Hodo came on to pinch hit, and he delivered. Hodo sent the pitch over the right field wall for his first home run in an Alabama uniform.
Ben Hess picked up the win, going 6 innings, allowing just 1 run on 3 hits, striking out 3 for his second win of the season. Alabama rolled to a big 9-3 win over Samford to improve to 25-17 on the year.
Alabama is also 500 in the SEC at 9-9.
Also, the Alabama softball team hit the road this past weekend for their final road series of the season as Alabama took on Texas A&M in College Station. Going into the series, the Tide was 19-4 all-time against the Aggies.
Yeah, Roger, despite the Tide's dominance over the Aggies in the series, Texas A&M did take games 1 and 2. Alabama jumped out to a 4-1 lead in game 1 thanks to a big 3rd inning. Kaylee Tao slapped a 2 RBI single to left field to make it 2-1 Bama. Then Megan Bloodworth had another 2-run single as her hit to center scored Kaylee Tao and Bailey Dowling. However, the Aggies scored 5 unanswered runs to take game 1 6-4.
In game 2, it was really all Texas A&M. The Aggies struck big for 7 runs in the bottom of the 2nd. Jenna Lord added a single to right field to score Savannah Woodard in the top of the 5th, but that wouldn't be enough as Texas A&M won game 2 in 5 innings, 9-1.
Jenna Lord started game 3 off with a blast off the scoreboard in left field for her 2nd home run of the season. After the Aggies tied the score, Ashley Prangy delivered an RBI double to left to give the Crimson Tide the lead back at 2-1. Texas A&M then tied the score once again with a home run to left to make it 2-all.
But it was Ashley Prangy once again, this time with a homer to left field, and that blast gave Alabama the 3-2 lead. Savannah Woodard tacked on an insurance run with a sac fly to left field as the Tide defeated the Aggies 4-2 in game 3. Montana Fouts picked up her 20th win of the season as she struck out 8, allowing just 1 earned run in 7 innings of work.
Patrick Murphy's squad has won 5 of their 7 SEC series this season, and the win on Sunday improved Alabama's record to 39-8 on the year and 14-7 in SEC play.
Alabama played their final non-conference game of the regular season on Wednesday night as the Tide traveled to Bowling Green, Kentucky to take on the Hilltoppers of Western Kentucky. The Hilltoppers brought their A-game as they defeated the Tide 3-1.
Alabama has the weekend off, and they will close out the season next weekend as the Tide hosts Missouri for their final series of the regular season.
Well, records were broken this past weekend at the Crimson Tide Invitational here in Tuscaloosa, including one that had stood for the past 42 years. We'll tell you what those records were and who broke them. Coming up next, right here on Tide TV This Week.
Tide TV This Week is presented by the University of Alabama, where legends are made. Ford, for great offers on F-150, see your local Ford dealer. Proud sponsor of the Crimson Tide.
Welcome back to Tide TV This Week. It was a big weekend for the Alabama track and field team as the Tide hosted their first home meet of the season, a two-day event, the Crimson Tide Invitational.
Total of 5 Alabama track and field athletes were ranked in the top 10 nationally coming into the weekend. Our Lillian Everest was there and has a full recap of the event, including a huge record-breaking performance.
The Alabama men's track and field team has been the hottest team in the country, moving from ranked 36 in week 2 to now being ranked 5th in the nation, coming to their first home meet of the season, the Crimson Tide Invitational. The Tide welcomes 20 teams from 9 different states to Tuscaloosa, including SEC conference rivals Missouri, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Auburn, and Tennessee. And the Tide is eager to show their home crowd what they can do. The Tide came away with some big wins during the Crimson Tide Invitational, including a record-breaking performance by Hillary Chariot during his first collegiate 1,500-meter race. Chariot finished over 3 seconds ahead of his competition with a time of 3 minutes and 38.22 seconds, putting him ahead of Crimson Tide great David Kamani and just behind his teammate Eliud Kipsang, who broke the UA and collegiate record last weekend with a time of 3 minutes and 33.74 seconds. The women's team also had some strong performances during the meet. Amaris Tanisma dominated the women's 5,000-meter race with a time of 16 minutes and 4.54 seconds, which put her nearly a minute ahead of her competitors. Day 1 also featured some career-best performances in the men's hammer throw. Kieran McKeague posted the best mark of the competition, throwing for 71.53 meters, while Bobby Colantonio Jr. finished 3rd among other collegians, throwing for 70.39 meters. Day 2 featured over a dozen Crimson Tide wins in several different events. Isaac Adugbasan broke UA's 42-year-old record in the men's shot put. Adugbasan, a 3-time SEC shot put champion, posted a 20.66 meter throw on his final attempt of the meet, which picked up the win and surpassed the previous school record of 20.54 meters. The Crimson Tide women took the top 2 spots in the women's 100 and 400 meters. Talia Lewis finished with a time of 11.36 in the 100, tying her for 8th all-time in Alabama history. The Tide also saw some stellar team performances this weekend. Jacobin Retta, Tarsis Aragat, Mason Phillips, and Demetrius Jackson won the men's 4x100 meter relay with a time of 38.86, which makes them the 2nd in school history and the 4th fastest nationally this season. Head coach Dan Waters said he was very pleased with his team's performance this weekend, and although they have some improvements to be made before the SEC championships, he believes his team is moving in the right direction. Next up for the Tide is the LSU Invitational beginning on April 30th in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and then it's on to SEC Championships beginning on May 12th in Oxford, Mississippi. Reporting from the Sam Bailey Track and Field Stadium, I'm Lillian Everest for Tide TV.
Wow, a big weekend for the Alabama track and field team with major wins in both the men's and women's events.
And with those big wins, the Alabama men's track and field team continued to climb up in the rankings. There are 8 teams from the SEC in the top 25 rankings, and the Crimson Tide lead them all. After moving up to 5th this last week, this week the Alabama men's track and field team shot up the rankings all the way to number 2 in the outdoor track and field rankings. The 2nd place ranking is the highest regular season ranking in program history.
And with the great weekend, the team earned a couple of honors from the SEC. Isaac Adugbasan's throw of 20.66 meters bettered the previous school record in the shot put set way back in 1980 by 2.54 meters. With that throw, Adugbasan moves up to 3rd nationally and number 1 in the SEC. And for that, he was named the SEC Men's Field Athlete of the Week.
And in his first collegiate 1,500-meter race, Hillary Chariot ran an incredible 3:38.22 to win the event at the Crimson Tide Invitational. That time ranks Chariot 2nd all-time in Alabama history and 2nd in the SEC this season behind Eliud Kipsang's collegiate record of 3:33.74. Chariot was named the SEC Men's Freshman of the Week.
The Crimson Tide has a new volleyball coach. Rashinda Reed comes over from the University of Illinois to lead the University of Alabama program. We'll go all access with Coach Reed for one of her first practices here as head coach of the Crimson Tide. That and much more coming up next on Tide TV This Week.
Tide TV This Week is presented by the University of Alabama, where legends are made. Ford, for great offers on F-150, see your local Ford dealer. Proud sponsor of the Crimson Tide.
Welcome back. The Alabama men's and women's tennis teams took part in the SEC championships this past week.
Yeah, the men's championships took place in Athens, Georgia, where the Tide played 2. In Alabama's opening round matchup, the Tide won 4 singles matches to defeat Vanderbilt 4-3. That win advanced the Tide to the second round to take on 5th-seeded Tennessee, but unfortunately, the Volunteers got the better of the Tide with the 4-0 win.
The number 10 seed Alabama women's tennis team took on 7th-seeded Tennessee in the second round of the SEC tournament. The Crimson Tide opened the match, winning the doubles point, but the Vols won 4 consecutive singles matches to earn the 4-1 win. The NCAA men's and women's tennis selection shows will take place on May 2nd.
The Alabama men's golf team wrapped up SEC championship play this past weekend. Alabama finished 14th in stroke play at the SEC championships in Sea Island, Georgia. The Tide shot an 871, 41 over par for the tournament, and Thomas Ponder and Charles Nikitas led the Tide as they both had a 3-round total of 5 over par to finish tied for 42nd.
As a team, Alabama had 3 top 5 finishes on the year, including a season-best runner-up finish at the 2022 Water Sound Invitational. The NCAA men's golf regionals begin on May 15th.
The Alabama women's golf team was selected as the number 2 seed in the NCAA Regional in Franklin, Tennessee. With this year's selection, the Crimson Tide will appear in its 16th consecutive regional under head coach Mick Potter and its 23rd overall. For the Crimson Tide, play begins on May 9th.
And the Alabama soccer team finished their spring schedule undefeated in their 6 matches.
That last match came this past Friday here in Tuscaloosa as Alabama defeated Mississippi State 5-0. Jessica Skorka, Riley Tanner, and Felicia Knox each had a goal, with Kate Henderson scoring 2 for the Crimson Tide. Alabama finished the spring 5-0 with 1 tie. And Roger, there is a new head coach on the campus of the University of Alabama. Rashinda Reed recently took over as head coach of the Alabama volleyball team, and she comes to the capstone after 5 years as an assistant at the University of Illinois. Coach Reed has wasted no time as the Tide have already gotten hard at work for the upcoming fall season. Let's go all access with Coach Rashinda Reed and the Tide from one of her first practices as head coach.
Are you ready to get after it today? I know you guys are. I know you are. I am too. Ball, into that ball, really high and extend, finish, rotate through. Yes, 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 yes. Nice job, nice job. Ball, long rotate. So right now your arm is here. Yes, Sammy! That's the timing right there. That's the timing right there. Good, turn. Yes, Dad, yes, Dad. Come on, take turn, yes. Ball, pull, extend, rotate. So not down, rotate. That's better. That's it. What are we covering here? We're covering rook. Yes! Okay, one day when our long bus drives, we'll hop in and start DVT. You guys don't know that either. Have your arm finished straight ahead to her. Yes, up quick. Hear me,
Back on 3, 1, 2, 3.
Work. What did I say? She said work.
William Havener is back. And Alabama is a winner. Pinked it huge. Swing and a miss. The Tide are a winner. Are you kidding me? He will slide in and Bama wins it. It is all over. Owen Diodati.
Welcome back to Tide TV This Week. The annual Crimson Choice Award show was held this past Monday night, and the show was streamed live from right here inside Bryant-Denny Stadium.
Several awards were handed out, including Athletes of the Year, Coaches of the Year, and also Teams of the Year.
Hillary Chariot has already gotten off to a great freshman season here at the capstone for the Alabama track and field team, and he was named the Male Rookie of the Year. Swimming and diving's Avery Weissman took home the Rookie of the Year award for the women, while her teammate Tyler Sessvold captured the Comeback Athlete of the Year award.
The men's tennis and women's golf teams won the Team GPA awards. Men's tennis had a 3.74 average, while women's golf had a team grade point average of 3.76. And for their work in the community, the Alabama men's and women's swimming and diving teams won the Commitment to Service award.
The A-Club Female Athlete of the Year award went to softball's Montana Fouts, while Heisman Trophy winner Bryce Young won the A-Club Male Athlete of the Year award. In her first year as head coach, swimming and diving's Margot Gear was named the Female Sports Coach of the Year. And while it was no surprise that Nick Saban was named the Male Sports Coach of the Year.
Coach of the Year award winners were also the same as the teams of the year, as football won the male team of the year after winning the SEC championship, while women's swimming and diving captured the award for female sports team of the year. Final two awards of the night were the Paul W. Bryant Student Athlete Awards. The award goes to the top female and male student athletes. This year's female Bryant Student Athlete of the Year was Mercy Schellingott, while swimming and diving's Derek Moss took home the top honor on the men's side.
Wow, Roger, a lot of awards given out to a lot of really deserving student athletes and coaches.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Again, the Student Athlete Advisory Committee put together that show, really had a fun time with it.
It was so great seeing all those awards spread out across so many different sports.
Absolutely. Stay with us as we'll reveal our players of the week, and also we'll end the show with our favorite images of the year. That's coming up next, right here on Tide TV This Week.
William Haminer is back. Is a winner. Pinkney, huge. Swing and a miss. The Tiger a winner. Are you kidding me? He will slide in, and Bama wins it. It is all over. Owen Diodati.
Welcome back to Tide TV This Week. Now let's take a look at our Players of the Week, brought to you by Legacy of Hope. Sophomore pitcher Grayson Hitt shut out number 10 Georgia over 6 innings as he picked up the win. Hitt allowed just 3 hits, striking out 7 across 6 innings in Alabama's 3-0 upset win.
And Andrew Pinkney was instrumental on both offense and defense in the Tide's Game 3 win over 10th-ranked Georgia. Pinkney threw out a Bulldogs base runner trying to go from first to third for the third out of the inning. And then in the 5th, Pinkney blasted a 2-run shot over the left field wall to give the Crimson Tide the 3-0 lead.
Isaac Dubikson broke the 42-year-old school record in the shot put with a throw of 20.66 meters. With that throw, Dubikson moves up to 3rd nationally and number 1 in the SEC. Dubikson was also named the SEC Men's Field Athlete of the Week.
And Hillary Chariot ran an incredible 3:38.22 in his first collegiate 1,500-meter race to win the event at the Crimson Tide Invitational. That time ranks 2nd all-time in Alabama history and 2nd in the SEC this season, behind teammate Elliot Kipsing's collegiate record of 3:33.74. Chariot was also named the SEC Men's Freshman of the Week. And those were our Legacy of Hope Players of the Week.
Kira, it's really hard to believe this is our last show of the spring, and it's also worth noting over the past 2 years, you and I have been co-hosting this show, and this is actually your final show as well after 66 episodes of Tide TV This Week. Thank you for being an incredible partner, and thank you for all the fun you've made this show.
Oh my gosh, it's been such an honor, and I could not have asked for a better co-host and friend.
Certainly has been a pleasure. We will return with this show coming up in the fall, but before we go, we want to leave you with our favorite images of the year. They're brought to you by ATI.
We hope you enjoy them. It's been a pleasure. Have a great summer, everyone. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
Rat poison is rat poison, and the media is always going to create it. Everybody wants to beat us. We're going to get everybody's best game. Nobody wants to win worse than they do. Not me, not you. Nobody wants to win more than the players that play.
Brooks throws the out route into the end zone. Mechie, he's got a touchdown, Alabama.
And she stays on her feet.
Followed by Keon Ellis. Throws caught wide open. Slade Bolden. Touchdown, Alabama. Owen Diodati with a walk-off dinger here on opening day.
1-2-3 inning for Montana Fouts.
Whether in Atlanta, Georgia, or Seattle, Washington, it's a bad day to be a Bulldog.
Oh, it's perfect for Malia Moore. An ace to sweep Buffalo.
Jemiah Bingo Young tells everybody in Troy, Alabama to just quiet down for a moment.
Head to the bag.
And sticks that dismount.
Listen, Williams behind the defense. He's got it. Touchdown, Alabama.
Goodnight thinking about going all the way to third, and she's in there.
Ellie Shipman sends it out to left.
Alabama Crimson Tide defeat the third-ranked Gonzaga Bulldogs 91-82 in the battle in Seattle.
The big 1.5. Great control in that landing.
Down he goes. Williamson. Come on down. No good. Tip, no. It's over.
Able to knock off the 12th-ranked Lady Volunteers.
Lexi Kilfoyle, a 6-inning perfect game in the circle.
Bama has come from nowhere to defeat the Auburn Tigers in multiple overtimes.
Really showed up their stack again.
Double A dismount. That was a nice bar set.
Deep, it's up, it is good! A grand slam home run! Drew Williamson!
Shackelford beating Gurley.
But we talked about Alabama, okay? We talked about Alabama!
This has been a presentation from Learfield,